Well, hello, Canadian Campaholic here with a bit of a miscellaneous video for you. As I predicted in my most previous video, I was indeed laid off by my employer 60 to 90 days as a result of COVID-19. So not really an awful lot to do in my downtime other than, of course, social distancing and staying home as much as possible. Today, though, I am here in the storage facility. There's nobody else here other than my son, who's behind the camera. And the purpose of today's visit is I'm actually going to put a couple of cushions in the trailer. I also came to check out the trailer because we had a huge storm last night and we had hail the size of nickels coming down. And when you have a stick and tin trailer like mine with the wood frame and the aluminum skin, there's a real risk of that hail not only potentially damaging roof covers, but putting a lot of dents in the side of the trailer. I'm pleased to report there does not appear to be any damage to the trailer, so that's good news. While I'm here, I'm also going to talk a little bit about the tire situation and talk about jacking up my trailer. So kind of a mishmash of topics on today's video. My daughter has just reminded me that yes, she is here for the video as well. Sorry, Violet. So anyway, one of the things I mentioned was I'm here to put some cushions back in the trailer. Now, those of you that have watched my various videos about winterizing know that one of my key tips is that during the winter months, you shouldn't really leave cushions, fabrics, or really much of anything in the trailer, partly because if the trailer gets wet or gets a leak inside, it can damage a lot of this stuff and it's very expensive to replace. But also remember that the other thing you might deal with is mice. And if mice do unfortunately get into your trailer, they love to shred fabrics and cushions and things to make a nest. So these are the ultra leather or pleather cushions for the dinette, and I'm going to put them back in the trailer today. Normally at this stage I would put all of the mattresses and the memory foam and all other soft goods back in the trailer, because let's be honest, if we weren't dealing with this pandemic, we would have already been camping by now. In fact, we'd probably be planning our second trip. Also at this time of year, I would have washed the trailer outside to get the black streaks off. I would have cleaned the roof. I would have checked the seals, all that great stuff to maintain your camper. Sadly, can't do that because of the pandemic. But little trips like this, putting a couple of cushions in, it just kills some time and allows us to stay safe again, because there's nobody here but me and my kids until we can hopefully kick off the season at some point. So I'm going to put this in the trailer, and then we'll talk about a few other things. So for those of you who watched my last video, one of the things, or maybe it was 2 videos ago, one of the things I discovered in the course of the winter is that the tires on the trailer here have quite a bit of weather checking on the sidewalls. It turns out that these Castle Rock tires are not known for their reliability. They're cheap tires made in China. Typically RV tires or trailer tires, whether it's a pop-up camper, fifth wheel travel trailer, you should get a good 4 or 5 years out of the tires. It depends on, of course, how much wear there is on the treads, but more than anything, it's about the aging of the tire. Tires on trailers don't do near the amount of work as a tire on your vehicle. So with your vehicle, typically speaking, you replace your tires not based on age per se, but when the tread wears down. On RVs and trailers, it's a little different. It's more aging. Weather checking and cracking like this, these tires are only 3 years old. You should not be getting this much weather checking on a tire this quickly, especially when you take preventative steps like I did to cover it. Now, I realize it's not covered right now, but in the winter months, to keep the UV off of it and stop it aging the tires, I put covers on it. Now, I had planned prior to the pandemic starting to replace both tires. I will do that. I will buy brand new tires on rims, and I will jack up the trailer and change the tires out. I will torque the lug nuts to the manufacturer's specifications, because the last thing I want to do with a single axle trailer is have a blowout. A blowout, even on a tandem axle trailer, could be really dangerous. You could lose control of the trailer and crash. With a single axle, even if you don't have an accident, the whole trailer is going to drop, the hub's going to hit the ground, and it could be disastrous, not to mention the damage that can be caused when the tire explodes. So once our financial situation's better and we're working and we're ready to camp again, I will be replacing the tires. Which leads me to my next point. One of the things that I've always wondered with this trailer is about jacking it up in an emergency. Now, this this trailer, has a full-size spare tire on the back. And I have often wondered, because this trailer sits so far up off the ground, how exactly would I jack it up? Now, my truck, Ram 1500, has a scissor jack in it. I've tried using it because I thought, well, if it can lift my truck, it surely could lift the trailer. But what I found was it was a pain in the ass to use it. And also, it was very wobbly, and I didn't entirely trust it. So I watched a couple of videos online. I talked to a few other people that know a lot more about trailers than me. And I'd like to get your thoughts. So if you have thoughts or want to tell us what you use to jack up your trailer, go ahead and put that in the comments below. What they recommended I use, and I've tested it, and it works really well, and I'll show you on the other side in a minute, is a nice little humble bottle jack. This is a hydraulic bottle jack, 2-ton lifting capacity, which is more than enough to lift one side of the trailer at a time. This is a 2,800 pound dry weight trailer. So a 2-ton jack, all it's doing is it's just going to lift the tire just enough that you can remove the tire and replace it. But this thing was under $20 at Canadian Tire, and it works quite well. Now you have to be very careful with it. You have to make sure that you're only lifting, of course, one side of the trailer at a time. You've got to make sure that you chock the wheels on the opposite side. The other thing that I did was I have some of these Camco leveling blocks, and I'll put the link in the description to my review video of these. Great product. But what I did was I actually put the bottle jack on top of the leveling blocks to give it just a little bit of extra reach. If this was sitting on the ground, by the time it would reach up to the frame, that's a heck of a lot of travel, and I don't even know if the jack would extend that far. Plus the fact it could sink in the ground and shift, and that could be very dangerous. So my recommendation is, if you've got some leveling blocks or some wood, some pieces of 2x4 plywood, put the bottle jack on top of it, and then use that to very carefully jack up the trailer. Now I jacked it up to the frame. There's an I-beam here, which is part of the frame of the trailer, and I put it just in front of the wheel there. The other consideration when you're using these bottle jacks, I don't know if you can see that, but the top of it is very, very narrow. So you really want to make sure that that is engaging nice and centrally on the I-beam there. I can't talk today. But the risk is if the trailer bounces around or moves around while you're jacking it up, you don't want the trailer to slide off of that. What I love about having the bottle jack is two things. One, in the horrendous event that I would have a blowout, this would allow me to change the tire. The other thing is that when the trailer sits here for many, many months, all the weight and pressure is on this little piece of tire, and it's putting so much pressure on the sidewalls on both sides. Some people will say you should move the trailer back a little bit or forward a little bit. You might not have room to do that if you're in your driveway or here in a storage facility. So what I was able to do, and I'll show you this on the other side, is use the bottle jack to lift the trailer up a little bit and just rotate that tire. So we'll head over to the other side because the other tire needs to be rotated, and we'll show you how this works. All right, so we've come to the opposite side of the trailer now, and you can see I've got a cover on this wheel. Sadly, despite the cover, I got weather checking all around here. I got cracks down here. They're very, very shallow cracks. They're just on the surface, but I'm not going to trust that. I do not want to risk having that tire explode on me. So again, what I'm going to do here is I've chocked the wheels on the opposite side. I've made sure that nobody's around the trailer. There's no risk of anybody getting hurt by it. I've got some leveling blocks underneath, and I'm going to take out, this is the little arm that you use to crank up the jack. Now, I'm not an expert on bottle jacks, so if you know a lot more about these than me, feel free to put some comments down below. I'm sure some of you will love to tell me your knowledge and insight into these things. I'm going to take the bottle jack out, whoops, and you'll see that I put a handful of the leveling blocks underneath. Now, one thing I was concerned about was would the pressure from the bottle jack potentially crack the leveling blocks, but when you figure that these can be used on motorhomes, fifth wheels, I'm not sure what the weight rating is on these, but I've seen people use them on 40-foot motorhomes. Unlikely that this little bottle jack is going to crack it. One thing you also could do if you don't like the fact, like if you look at the bottle jack, you'll notice that when it sits on the pads, there's not a lot of play because you don't want the jack to go like that and tip off. I suppose you could put a piece of plywood there to be extra safe, Absolutely, you could do that. But what we're going to do is we're going to make sure that the screw here is tight. This kind of bleeds the pressure off to lower the jack. So I know I already tightened it from last time, but better safe than sorry. One of the things I like about this bottle jack is you can unscrew the top here to raise it up a bit, and that reduces the amount of travel that you're going to need on the jack. But again, we're going to place it on the leveling blocks. Whoops, got that round the wrong way. Well, maybe not. No, that's okay. I'm trying to remember which side I've got to put the bloody handle in. I told you I wasn't an expert on this. Oh no, it is this side. Whoops. Makes sense. Because then you... What a stupid thing to do, Dan. If you turn it the other way, how the hell are you going to access the screw to bring it down? Duh. Okay. I'm embarrassing myself. Okay. My knees are going to be a little dirty here, but that's okay. So I'm going to position it underneath the I-beam. I want to be careful I don't hit the propane line here. I want to be careful I don't jam any wires or risk damaging the water tank. So I'm going to move it back just a bit. And again, I can raise this up a bit if I want. I'm going to connect my little lever here. Whoops. One of those things where if I wasn't on camera right now, I could do this very easily without a problem. But because you guys are watching me and probably all laughing at me right now, not doing such a good job with it. Okay, so I'm going to put the arm in, and it's just a simple case of just cranking it up and down, and the hydraulic pressure is lifting that bottle jack up. And again, I want to make sure before it grips that it's nice and centered, which it is. It's centered on the leveling block. It's not going to fall off. I'm going to keep my hands well back because if something was to happen, I don't want to lose a finger. I'm just going to very slowly start jacking it up. As it goes up, just keep watching, making sure nothing's really shifting. And if at any point you got to back this sucker off, you can release the key here very slowly. That'll release the hydraulic pressure and allow the trailer to safely come back down. You should probably use jack stands as well if you were going to change the tire. But for this demonstration, we're just lifting the wheel up just enough that it can rotate, which, not quite, you gotta go a little further. Now you could use a trolley jack for this. I suppose you could use a scissor jack, but you can see we already have a lot of travel happening here. This side must be sunk in a lot more. I should have used more leveling blocks. Alright, so you rejoin the action. I'm all out of breath now. We had to lower the jack down and add a few more leveling blocks. I don't know why this side was so much harder to jack up. I don't know if we're on more of a slope or what. But it took a lot more leveling blocks. Ooh, I'm out of shape. And a lot more leverage from the jack. But you can see, I could pump it up a little more, but you can see how the tire can move now. Now obviously, if I'm going to change this tire, I'd want to go up another inch. But what I can do in this case, in the winter months, let's say the tire's been sitting here for months on end, I can rotate that tire around. In fact, there's the wet spot that the tire has been, where it's been sitting on the ground for the entire winter. So essentially, you can rotate it around. So I'm just going to put the chocks back in place, and Ramey's going to back up a little bit here, and we'll show you how this works to bring it down. Now again, keep your fingers clear, be careful. You're going to take the lever that you used to jack it up. You're going to put it on this little bleed-off screw here. Okay, so with great difficulty, we're going to put this on the bleed-off screw and very slowly keep my shoulders clear. I'm going to turn it counterclockwise, and there you go. You can see the trailer slowly lowering down now. A little more, and down she goes. Nice and safe. The one issue I do have with this jack, I don't want to unscrew this too much. If I take all the pressure off, the piston doesn't drop all the way. So I got to kind of reach underneath and manhandle it a little bit. And then I can pull the jack out, push it down manually, and we're done. So let's head inside and talk about a couple other things. All right, so we're coming to you now from inside the camper. Just had a quick look around, make sure we had no leaks. We had some heavy rain last night with that storm I mentioned, but everything inside is in good shape. So we'll wrap this video up soon, but first I'll share a couple of general thoughts. The first thing I wanted to share was I am part of a really great group of people on Facebook that enjoy provincial parks. And I have to say that all of us on there are, trying to make the best of the situation, and as serious and as dire as this pandemic is, we all miss camping, and we all feel that right now being able to go away and escape in the woods would be a great way to deal with this stressful situation. But I'm sure I can speak for the group when I say that, and I said this in my last video, that this is killing people. A lot of people are losing relatives, and that is far more tragic than not being able to camp. But more on that in a moment. I digress. One of the things I've noticed on the group is a lot of people have been discovering the little moisture absorbers that you can get at the dollar store. These are the little pots with a blue label, which have a decusant. I'm probably saying that wrong, but it's a compound that absorbs moisture out of the air, and they're all raving about them. Those things are not very good. They're really only designed for a small closet or something like that. They're not hugely effective. What I recommend, and my subscribers have seen this in many other videos, is a product like this. This is called Damp Check, and this is basically that same sort of product on steroids. I have 2 containers here that are absolutely full of that white chemical product, and it is as dry as a popcorn fart in here, to quote my father-in-law. And basically the chemicals absorb the moisture. The moisture then is captured in this little container at the bottom, and at the end of the winter you can safely dump that down your toilet. The beauty of these is that to refill these, to buy them individually as a starter kit, that's the whole pot, the lid, and the powder, you're looking at probably $8 to $10 last time I priced it. So you're looking at $16 for 2. To buy a refill bag later, I think it was around $12 or $13, and that refill bag will do me 2 winters. This has been sitting in here since November, and I don't know if you can see in the top there, Amy. Show them the top. It's barely started to break down and crystallize, which is a good sign. It means it's doing the job, and it's in this container just so it doesn't fall over. So again, if you're tempted to go to your local dollar store and pick up those little tiny rectangular ones, don't waste your money. Get Damp Check or Damp Rid. Damp Rid is typically, if you're in Canada, that's going to be at, I'm not sponsored by them, but just telling you where you can buy it. It's Home Hardware. Damp Check, which is what I'm using here, is at Canadian Tire. Now, obviously, right now, hardware stores are only doing online deliveries and curbside pickup because of COVID-19. But if you have a way to get your hands on these products, I really recommend it. So to wrap things up, I just wanted to kind of get serious again here for a moment and talk about this situation that we're all faced with. Thankfully, touch wood, none of my friends or family have been directly affected by the virus in the sense of getting sick, and I'm very thankful for that. While we all sort of commiserate about the fact we can't camp, I think one of the biggest things I'm taking away from this is perspective and appreciation. I think that we here in North America really take our lifestyle for granted, whether it is having a camper like this or a truck and or hell, even a tent and being able to go camping. That is an amazing thing. And the fact that you have to stay home, you can't go see your friends, you can't go see your relatives, you can't go camping. I think that when life goes back to normal, whatever that's going to look like, I think that's going to be fabulous. And I know for myself, I'm certainly not going to take camping for granted. There were points last year during our 14 trips where, yeah, it kind of felt like we were going through the motions. It was like, oh, here we go, another camping trip. Okay, we're going to get packed up and all the rest of it. And I think it was just the novelty had started to wear off, and we didn't appreciate it, and that's not a good thing. So, yeah, I think the biggest thing about this is once this plague, this pandemic wraps up, you know, I can't wait to hug and see my friends and my family. Can't wait to go camping. And I hope that I will have learned an important lesson from this, and I hope you will have as well. So that's it for today. All the pre-season maintenance, like cleaning the roof, cleaning the sides, that's all going to have to wait. Changing the tires is going to have to wait. We've got to get through this difficult financial time. I got to get through the layoff and stay safe. Big thank you today to my son Ramy and my daughter Violet. I'm going to put a link in the bottom for Ramy's YouTube channel for Our Boy Gaming. And I believe Violet is setting up a channel called
The Crazy Girl Gaming.
Is it Crazy Girl Gaming or V Crazy Girl Gaming?
V Crazy Girl Gaming.
Okay, so yeah, once we have that, we'll add a link in the description as well. Anyway, be safe, and we'll talk to you later.